Try selling that junk somewhere else, Grandpa. That's what a guy yelled from behind the wheel of his shiny luxury sedan, the wind from his passing car kicking up a cloud of dust. The old man didn't flinch. He just stood there, sun-scorched, still holding a bundle of neatly folded American flags close to his chest. Car after car sped past him like he didn't exist. No one paused. No one cared. Not until a black SUV rolled up beside him, windows dark as night, and the man who stepped out brought the entire street to a dead stop. Time itself seemed to hesitate, like even history wanted to bear witness. Frank Mallory, 78 years old, stood every morning at the edge of Interstate 14, near the westbound exit ramp. A weathered crate sat beside him. Inside, handcrafted American flags, made from fabric that had seen as much as he had, every one sewn by his own hands. The sign leaned beside him was modest, just a piece of whitewashed wood painted with the words, "Flags for the Fallen," made by a veteran who remembers. No desperate slogans, no begging, just memory stitched into cloth. Most days he was invisible. A passing glance here, a buck tossed from a half-open window there. A few offered handshakes, a soft, "Thank you for your service." But those moments were rare now. Lately, the indifference was louder than silence. One morning, someone tossed a crushed energy drink can at him and barked, "Freedom doesn't pay your bills, old-timer." The can clipped his shoulder, rolled into the gutter. He didn't move, didn't react, just adjusted his glasses, smudged from dust, and kept his stance. A kid at the gas station across the street laughed with his coworker. "Dude thinks he's Uncle Sam or something. My pop was in the Navy. You don't see him out here trying to guilt-trip people." Meanwhile, a group of high schoolers giggled as they filmed him with their phones. One put on a mock voice and sneered, "Next he'll be selling bottled tears." From D-Day. Frank didn't flinch, didn't even look their way. He straightened the edges of a flag, dusted off a corner, and stood a little taller. He had been doing this for 6 years. Rain, snow, heat, none of it kept him away. Once, he sold dozens of flags in a single weekend. Now he was lucky to move a couple in a week. Patriotism had moved to bumper stickers and hashtags. Who had time for fabric stitched by a forgotten soldier? But Frank wasn't there for profit. Each flag carried the name of someone who never made it home. He remembered every face, every story, every last goodbye. A sports car sped past, the driver revving the engine like he was in a race. A young man behind the wheel yelled, "Get with the times, Pops! It ain't the 60s anymore." The dust choked the air, clinging to Frank's flag bundle. He calmly wiped his glasses with a cloth older than most of the drivers on that road. Still, he remained, chin high, shoulders square, holding on to dignity like it was armor. A woman in yoga pants walked by on her way to the nearby health center. She glanced at his sign and shook her head. "Shouldn't someone stop him? That's not normal." A passing patrol car slowed. The officer inside looked him over, squinting through the window. After scanning his vendor tag, he drove off without a word, the military pins on his chest glinting under the sun. No salute, no nod. Later that morning, a woman rolled down her window, squinting at the flags. "These imported?" she asked, suspicion dripping from her voice. "No, ma'am," Frank replied calmly. "Stitched every one of them myself. Every star, every seam." She blinked, rolled her window up, and left. No sale. His knees, stiff from standing, began to shake. Titanium pins from an old battlefield injury throbbed beneath his jeans. He shifted his weight subtly, leaning just enough to stay upright without appearing weak. Still no buyers, not even a thank you. A little boy across the street tugged at his mom's hand. "Mom, can we get one for Dad?" She gently pulled him away. "Don't bother the man, sweetheart. Let's go." The teenagers returned, this time in a convertible, music blaring, voices louder. "What war are you fighting now, Grandpa?" Instagram comments. More laughter. Frank's grip on the flag tightened. It was different from the others. The cloth was softer, sewn with red thread instead of standard white. It was for Tony, his closest friend, lost in Da Nang. He'd promised Tony's sister he'd honor. Him. One flag, one name, one memory at a time. But these days, that promise felt like a weight pulling him down. It was nearly noon. The cooler by his feet was empty. His shoulders slumped just slightly. An elderly couple slowed as they passed. The man raised 2 fingers in a silent salute. Frank returned it without missing a beat. That quiet gesture gave him enough strength to stay for another hour. Maybe he'd pack up early. Maybe tomorrow would be better, or maybe it wouldn't. But that didn't matter. He had a mission, even if no one else remembered why. A delivery truck swerved too close, splashing muddy water. Across his crate, the driver didn't stop. Frank bent down, gently lifted the flag that had taken the hit, and wiped it clean with a cloth, as if it were sacred. Then, just as he was reaching for the crate to pack up, a low rumble filled the air. Not like the rest of the morning traffic. This sound was deliberate, deep, controlled. A matte black SUV pulled up slowly, its engine too quiet for its size. Government plates, tinted windows. The air shifted. Conversations on the other side of the street stopped. Phones dropped from hands. Even the teenagers fell quiet. The driver's side window crept down, and then the door opened. A man in a crisp navy suit stepped out, flanked by agents in dark glasses. The wind seemed to still. Every eye was locked on him, and with a few confident strides, the man was standing in front of Frank. "Sergeant First Class Franklin Mallory," he said in a clear, calm voice. Frank nodded slowly, eyes narrowing behind old lenses. His right hand twitched toward a salute. "Yes, sir." The man, none other than the President of the United States, returned the salute sharply. "My father served with you. He said you saved his life in Hughes City, 1968. A gasp swept through the people watching from the gas station across the road. The young guy who'd mocked Frank earlier dropped his latte, the cup hitting the pavement with a soft splatter, unnoticed. Even the teenagers, phones still in hand, stared like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The president turned. To face them all, voice calm, but strong enough to cut through the silence like a bell. "This man didn't come here for money," he said, his hand gesturing toward the crate of flags. "He came here for memory, for loyalty, for promises made to those who never got the chance to come home." Then he turned back to Frank, his expression respectful. "May I, Sergeant Mallory?" Frank held out a flag, the one he'd made for Tony, and nodded. "Of course, Mr. President." With care and ceremony, the president knelt, his Secret Service team visibly tense, and laid the flag gently on the warm pavement. Then he stood and faced the now breathless crowd. "From this day forward, this exit will bear a new name, Sergeant Franklin Mallory Way, in honor of the man who reminds us that some battles are fought not with bullets but with memory, and some soldiers never stop serving." A television crew that had been tailing the presidential convoy captured every second. Within an hour, the footage exploded across the internet. President honors forgotten vet selling flags, turns out. He saved the president's father in Vietnam. It became headline news. Cars began pulling over, one after another. Not just to buy flags, but to meet him, thank him, ask about the names behind the fabric. The same teens who had laughed earlier returned, visibly awkward. One saluted, another offered to help him set up the next day. Even the gas station clerk walked over with a bottle of water and said softly, "I'm sorry, sir. My uncle served in Nam too. I should have known better." Before the president left, he placed a hand on Frank's shoulder. "We'd be honored to have you speak at the White House next month. Share your story with our military staff. It deserves to be heard." Frank nodded, his legs aching, but his stance proud. "I'd be honored, sir. But I'd have to bring my flags with me. I wouldn't expect anything less, the president replied, smiling. As the motorcade pulled away, a man stepped out from a crowd of onlookers. His eyes were red, his voice low. My brother died in Kandahar. Could you make one for him too? Frank looked him in the eye, then gently touched the man's shoulder. Tell me his name, son. Every name matters. 1 week later, a freshly installed green road sign gleamed in the morning sun. Sergeant Franklin Mallory Way, where courage stands. Frank still showed up every day, though not because he had to. He was no longer alone, no longer invisible. He stood because now, his mission had meaning again. The old wooden crate was now filled with letters from all over the country. Thank yous, stories of loved ones lost, photos of soldiers from every era. His flags? Always sold out by lunchtime, with weeks of back orders waiting. Each Friday, a local elementary school brought a group of students to sit on the grass near the off-ramp. Cross-legged, wide-eyed, they listened to Frank tell the story of every flag in his crate. He'd speak their names aloud, explain where they fell and what they meant to him. One little girl, no older than 8, raised her hand. Mr. Mallory, why do you still come here when you're already famous now? Frank chuckled softly, eyes misty but voice clear. Because fame fades, but memory matters. And when the world forgets, someone still has to remember. That's the battle that never ends. Later that month, a new vehicle pulled up. But it wasn't a black SUV this time. It was a custom-painted van, red, white, and blue, covered with the names and faces of fallen soldiers. Across the side, bold letters read, "Honor never expires," and just above them, in golden script, Mallory. Inside the van was space for everything Frank needed, his flags, his stories, and now a growing team of volunteers who helped him sew, package, and tell stories. Veterans, students, families who'd lost someone, they all pitched in. His cause had grown beyond him, but he still remained its beating heart. He didn't want a museum. He didn't care for a medal. All he wanted was for people to know the cost, to say their names out loud, to look someone in the eye and say, "You mattered. You were remembered." One day, a boy who'd come regularly to the Friday group walked up quietly. He handed Frank a small notebook. Inside were handwritten letters to fallen soldiers, his way of remembering them too. Frank's hand trembled as he took it, and then he said, "This is how it starts." One voice, then another. One story at a time. The camera faded to a slow shot of the off-ramp. Flags waving, children sitting in the grass, a man standing tall with sun behind him. A place once ignored, now transformed. The final line of the video echoed Frank's voice. "They gave everything. The least I can do is not let the world forget."